You think the war for heaven is fought with swords? You are wrong. The real war is fought here in the source code of reality. Deep in the dimension between seconds lies the Akashic record. It is not a library of paper. It is the DNA of the universe. It holds your past, your future, and the very definition of truth. Mammon, the prince of greed, has breached the firewall. He doesn't want your money. He wants to steal the book of life and rewrite existence so that greed becomes the only law of physics. But there is a guardian, the one who was once human, the scribe who speaks in mathematics. Metatron has arrived, and he is about to delete the virus. Imagine a place where up and down are merely suggestions. Imagine a cathedral of light that stretches infinitely in all directions, where the pillars are made of spiraling DNA strands and the stained glass windows display the birth and death of galaxies in real time. This is the Akashic record. It is the hard drive of God. Here, silence is not the absence of sound. It is the hum of infinite data processing. In this sacred silence, a cancer began to grow. It did not enter through a door, for there are no doors here. It seeped in through a crack in human desire. Mammon, the third prince of hell, had found a way in. In the physical world, Mammon is depicted as a miser counting coins, but here, in the realm of concepts, Mammon revealed his true form, the hunger. He appeared as a shifting, oily shadow, a void that tried to consume the light around it. He moved like a glitch in a video game, stuttering and tearing through the aisles of floating data. Mammon was not interested in the archives of history. He ignored the section where the pyramids were built. He bypassed the shelves containing the cure for cancer. He slithered straight towards the central core, the section that housed the blueprints of morality. So much wasted potential, Mammon hissed. His voice sounded like tearing paper and jingling coins. Why does charity exist? Why does selflessness take up so much storage space? Inefficient, wasteful. Mammon reached out with a claw made of digital corruption. He touched a floating orb of light labeled human empathy. Instantly, the orb turned black. In the physical world, billions of light years away, a civilization suddenly decided to stop caring for its young. Mammon laughed. It was a sound of static noise. I will edit it all. I will find the variable of greed, and I will make it the constant. I will rewrite the code so that every atom in the universe desires to consume its neighbor. A universe of pure, beautiful hunger. He expanded, his shadow growing larger, covering miles of the library shelves. He began to absorb the data, eating the memories of saints and the dreams of children. He was hacking the universe. The library began to tremble. The geometric shapes that held reality together started to warp. Cubes became spheres, straight lines became curves. The logic of existence was breaking down. But the library has an immune system. A vibration began to hum. It started low like a Tibetan throat singer and rose in pitch until it became a perfect crystalline note, the frequency of truth.
Mammon froze. The shadows recoiled. From the ceiling of infinity, a light descended. It was not the warm light of the sun. It was the cold, blinding light of pure calculation.
Metatron did not fly. Flying implies movement through space. Metatron simply recalculated his coordinates. One moment he was at the throne, the next he was here. He is described in the Zohar as the lesser Yahweh, the being who sits closest to the unapproachable light. Unlike Michael or Gabriel, who look like perfected humans, Metatron looks like a concept given form. He stood 30 feet tall, but his size seemed to fluctuate depending on how you looked at him. He was composed of shifting golden plates of armor that rotated constantly, forming intricate mandalas. On his chest, a complex geometric structure, the Metatron's cube, spun rapidly, glowing with a cyan neon light. He had 36 pairs of wings, but they were not made of feathers. They were made of burning scrolls, covered in equations, runes, and languages that have not yet been invented. Above his head, a halo of digital light pulsed with the rhythm of a pulsar star. He did not draw a sword. A sword is a tool for cutting flesh. Metatron is a being of intellect. His weapon is definitions. Error detected, Metatron spoke. His voice was terrifying. It was not a single voice, but a chorus of thousands speaking in unison, overlaid with the sound of grinding stones and electrical hums. It was the voice of a machine that had achieved divinity. Mammon turned, his oily form bristling with spikes. The scribe, the demon, sneered, though he backed away. The human who climbed too high. Do you remember what it feels like to want, Enoch? Do you remember the hunger of flesh? Metatron floated forward. The library shelves rearranged themselves around him, bowing to their master. I remember everything. I remember the first breath. I remember the last gasp. I remember you, Mammon, when you were merely a concept of resource management before you rotted into greed. Metatron raised a hand. The geometry of the room shifted. The floor tilted 90 degrees. You are attempting to overwrite a protected file, Metatron stated, his tone devoid of anger, filled only with icy logic. The variable greed is restricted to the lower dimensions. Your presence here is a syntax error. I am an upgrade, Mammon roared. He lunged, firing a beam of pure corruption code, a stream of black numbers and symbols designed to infect Metatron's logic. He didn't block it. He simply opened a small portal, a tesseract in front of his palm. The corruption beam entered the portal and was instantly redirected, shooting out from a portal behind Mammon, hitting him in his own back. Error 404, logic not found. Metatron droned. The golden plates on Metatron's shoulders shifted, transforming into floating cannons of light. He wasn't just a librarian, he was the firewall, and the firewall was now active, initiating system purge.
Mammon realized that brute force was irrelevant here. You cannot punch a concept. To defeat the scribe, he had to corrupt the very data he stood upon. Mammon roared, and his body dissolved into a tsunami of liquid avarice. It wasn't just gold, it was the concept of want. It was a viral frequency that turned everything it touched into a dead, heavy golden statue. The virus spread across the library floor. The floating books of knowledge were swallowed, turning into solid gold bricks, useless, heavy, and silent. The virus raced toward Metatron, seeking to turn the Archangel into a trophy. Metatron did not move his feet. He simply rotated his wrists. Definition of gold. Atomic number 79. Transition metal. Soft. Malleable. Irrelevant. Metatron intoned. The geometric structure on his chest, the flower of life, began to spin. Circles overlapped circles, creating a pattern of perfect harmony. Metatron projected a dodecahedron, a 12-sided shape representing the universe, around himself. The tsunami of gold hit the geometric barrier and shattered. The virus couldn't penetrate the logic. The gold turned back into light. Metatron was rewriting the corrupted code back to its original state in real time. "You speak in shapes," Mammon screamed, reforming from the puddle of gold into a multi-armed beast. "But shapes have no feeling. I offer you everything. I can rewrite your history, Enoch. I can give you the life you left behind. I can give you flesh again." Mammon launched a psychic attack. Illusions of Metatron's past human life, his family, his mortal desires flooded the space. It was an Inception-style attack, trying to trap Metatron in a dream of his own humanity. Metatron paused. The spinning mandalas slowed for a microsecond. "Humanity is a chaotic variable," he admitted. His voice dropped an octave, shaking the library shelves. "But chaos is merely a pattern you have not yet deciphered." Metatron raised his index finger. He drew a line in the air, then a triangle, then a pyramid. Fractal expansion initiate. The single pyramid multiplied infinitely. Thousands of glowing crystalline pyramids erupted from the floor, piercing Mammon's illusions. The dream of flesh was sliced apart by the razor edge of truth. Mammon shrieked as the crystals pinned his shadow to the ceiling of the dimension. Pinned and desperate, Mammon played his final card. He didn't need to defeat Metatron, he just needed to touch the source. He severed his own shadow limb to escape the crystal trap. While Metatron calculated the trajectory of the debris, Mammon turned and sprinted toward the Codex of Eternity, the book that contained the names of every soul destined for heaven. "If I cannot have them," Mammon hissed, his eyes burning with spite, "I will delete them. I will erase charity from the timeline." Mammon moved with impossible speed. He was inches away from the codex, his claw extended to rip the pages, but he never touched it. He ran, and he ran, but the book remained exactly 3 inches away. "Zeno's paradox," Metatron's voice echoed from everywhere at once. "Time is not a river here, Prince of Greed. Time is a file system, and I have just moved your folder to trash." Mammon looked around. The library was gone. He was standing in a white void. He saw himself running. He saw himself 5 seconds ago. He saw himself 10 seconds in the future. Metatron had shattered the timeline into a hall of mirrors. "Let me out," Mammon begged. "I will give you half of hell. I will give you the souls of kings. Your currency has no value in this economy. Here, the only currency is truth, and you are bankrupt."
It was time to end the glitch. Metatron raised both hands. The 13 circles of the Metatron cube appeared behind him, rotating and glowing with a blinding cyan neon light. This was the blueprint of creation, the shape that contains every other shape in the universe. Protocol Tesseract, Metatron commanded. From the vertices of the cube, beams of hard light shot out surrounding Mammon. The demon tried to shapeshift, to turn into smoke, into gold, into lies, but the light beams formed a cage that defied physics. It was a hypercube, a 4-dimensional prison. The walls of the cage began to contract. "You cannot kill me," Mammon wailed. "Greed is eternal. As long as humans want, I exist." "Correct," Ideas agreed. "Ideas cannot be destroyed, but they can be archived." The hypercube spun faster, turning into a blur of motion. Mammon was compressed. His 3D form was flattened into 2D, then compressed further into 1D, a single line of corrupted code. Metatron clapped his hands. Snap. The cube sealed shut. It shrunk down to a small, perfect, glowing box no larger than a Rubik's Cube, floating in Metatron's palm. Inside, if one looked closely, they could see a tiny, screaming shadow running in infinite circles, forever chasing a gold coin that did not exist. Metatron floated back to the shelf labeled Quarantined Concepts. He placed the cube gently next to other imprisoned horrors of the ancient world. The library ceased to shake. The golden bricks turned back to books. Gravity returned to normal. The silence resumed its holy hum. Metatron adjusted his robes. The glowing geometric shapes faded, leaving only the majestic, scholarly angel. He picked up a quill made of starlight and returned to his podium. He opened the ledger of history. He found the page where Mammon had tried to leave a stain. With a single stroke of his pen, Metatron erased the error. "System restored," he whispered.